2. All right, so we do this broadcast privately, and then I think what I'm going to do is like what I did last night, and I'll just release it as an episode or whatever, live, like not live, but what do you want to call it, public, after the broadcast or whatever. We'll just keep doing it this way, because then that way the people that actually, listen to what I am talking about and stuff, and so on, the hardcore people will get their own private broadcast, which you deserve. And then, everybody else can listen to it as well when we're done. So I just want to start here. I wanted to bring you up to speed here, because I was apparently not even up to speed here. It would appear that there is something big that has been announced, and I totally missed this. And this happened, well, it's been kind of slow rolling for over a month now. So I was scrolling X to fill in holes on the next live, the one that would be the continuation of yesterday's live. And, matter of fact, I should probably bookmark this post that I was playing for test audio, so that it would be up to date and as far as like the info goes and stuff. And then I stumbled on this and I'm like, wait, how have I not heard about this, right? So if you exist on X and you're there regularly, as I've pointed out, you'll notice a ton of infighting, attacks on Trump, attacks on Pam Bondi, attacks on Dan Bongino. You know the drill. Mark Levin and Tucker are fighting. Milo and Benny Johnson are fighting. Candace and TPUSA are fighting. And a whole host of shady influencer types are trying to distract from what even I've missed, I do believe. And I don't pay attention to these idiots yet. Just from scrolling through X looking for news, I'm forced to see parts of this nonsense that they're pulling off. And then they did this in his first term, as I keep reminding everyone. I mean, they all started turning all crazy and doing crazy stuff in his first term. The closer we got to midterms, the more success he'd have, the more they'd complain about stuff like that. You probably remember. Now, currently, you have these new attacks on Hegseth. Not necessarily new, but the revival of these attacks on Hegseth. And I thought it was bizarre that they took up a story from months ago about a cartel boat getting blown up. Legally, I might add, only to like pivot back after that died to a nearly 10-month-old story, the Signalgate story. That's exactly what happened this week. Now, after finding what I found today, this all makes sense why they're doing this. So, as I've shown you multiple times, most of these big name influencers get paid behind the scenes, not from the platforms they're on only, but from groups that don't have your best interests at heart, to spread division, stoke anger, just basically over hot button issues and so on. You've seen it time and time again. You wake up one day, they're all parroting the same stupid talking points about the same thing over and over, phrased differently. The Democrats do it. These influencers do it. Rhinos do it. It's just a thing that they do. For money. So I said it would get worse the closer we get to midterms, and it has. But there's another very plausible reason as to why this week they've all amped it up, like fighting with each other and just all these optics or whatever to keep you distracted. The defense against the Venezuelan drug boats is still happening, right? Despite belly aching from useless Congress members and people in the press and Democrats and so on. So remember yesterday when I mentioned that the Somali issue isn't just in Minnesota, but it's also in Maine? Well, check this out really quick, because this ties into what we're going to talk about today. I want to show you this because this is absolutely insane. Let me find the X tab thing here and get it set up. That's one thing I forgot to do, guys. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Look at this. This is from Wall Street Apes. Maine governor candidate, that would be gubernatorial candidate. But anyway, Bobby Charles says that Maine has its own Somalian fraud rings. He says that there are Democrat-funded Somalian NGO operations that go out and register illegal voters. He also says that Somalian immigrants are stealing from their healthcare system with nonprofits. Now, I'm not going to read through all that. Let's just listen to what he has to say. This is a 2-minute, 35-second long video.
Mr. President, Bobby Charles here, and we've had a dialogue before, but I am here to tell you that we are grateful that you went into Minnesota with your team and you found these fraud rings and these fake nonprofits and these foreign influence operations run by the Somali community and what you, I think aptly, it's what has been called the Somalia First operation. And the irony is, here in the state of Maine, we are facing something similar. I'm here to tell you that our public reporting, never mind some of the early indications from federal inquiries, seems to be that we have a Somalia First operation here, Democrat funded, out there registering voters at the same time that they literally skim hundreds of thousands, maybe millions off our Maine Care system. As you may know, Maine Care is our version of Medicaid. It is a complete outrage because they are taking these monies from taxpayers in the state of Maine and they are using them to put Somali operators, these Somalia First operators, in our state government, both on the administrative side and on the local side, and actually in our legislature. So my appeal to you is you have done an extraordinary job in going after this Somalia First operation and network, including monies that are sent abroad by these people that seem to have a higher loyalty to Somalia than they do to the United States, and you've done it in Minnesota. I'm asking you, please send the Treasury Department's investigators, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, the ICE investigators, and anybody that the federal government has at DOJ or Treasury here to Maine, and in particular, go to Lewiston and help us, and Augusta, and help us unearth this Somalia First operation here in the state that is guilty almost certainly of Maine Care fraud with fake nonprofits exactly the way they did it in Minnesota. Please audit every dollar. Please come in and flip this place upside down so that we can get after this fraud and get our state back. So many Mainers, and I mean literally hundreds of thousands, want our state back again. Unfortunately, this Somalia First network is as rife here as in Minnesota. So please, as you have taken extraordinary actions to try to bring public corruption under control and public integrity back in Minnesota, we are in a state right now which is also Democrat-controlled and where there is a very strong Somalia First operation. Please help us beat it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, so keep that one in mind, and then check this out. This also pertains to Maine and technically Somalia, even though this is kind of a... What would you call? Just look at this. I don't know what you'd call this. This is just something to show you how corrupt these blue states are.
Okay, so as long as he brought his...
And by the way, I'm bringing this up for a reason. This all pertains to what this whole show is about tonight. This is from Libs of TikTok. I don't even have to read their tag. I'll leave it up, obviously, because I don't need to scroll down for this video to play. But I want you to listen to this video. This is a guy, I don't know if he's pretending or that this is a person he's trying to get a license for in Maine, a CDL license, or a driver's license, or if this is a legit recording. I think he's pretending, but listen to this. This is crazy.
Okay, so as long as he brought his birth certificate from Africa, he'll be okay to get his driver's license?
So that is one form of ID that we can accept for the exam process to get him started. The other one needs to bear a signature.
So would you take like a country ID? Because they do kind of similar.
Yeah, you know if that's been signed, if there's an immature.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so I looked at it. So as long as he has his birth certificate from his home country in Africa and a driver's license that has a signature from his country, that should be okay?
So we would be able to use that out-of-country ID for the signature piece as long as that birth certificate has been translated. Do you know if it has?
Yes, yeah, he does have his, yeah.
It is translated. Okay, yeah. Then yeah.
Awesome.
We could. Yeah.
Okay, so his name's Mohammed. I guess now the next step would be this. He doesn't speak any English. Is the test done in Somalian?
So for the Class C language, we do translate in Somalia. On that form, that application that I was talking about earlier, there's a box on there that says oral. He would just need to check that.
And how many can you get wrong?
So it is a 30-question multiple choice questions. Once he hits 6, the test will automatically shut off.
Okay, so he can only get 5 wrong out of the 30 to be safe.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
No, this is good. That's actually pretty easy. So he has to get 25 right out of the 30. He did have an issue in Somalia with his driving. Is that going to impact it, or do you guys just not connect with it?
We don't have reciprocity from one country to another, so we don't pull a driving record or anything along those lines.
So, so if it did lead to an accidental death, when he was driving, he was actually going over a crosswalk and hit a jogger. That's not going to impact the driver's license here, right?
We wouldn't be able to access those records. So again, we don't have reciprocity from one country to another, so we wouldn't be able to pull those records.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna go actually go down and meet him and get some translators. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Would you like the information for the elections department under the Secretary of State?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just.
Their phone number is 207.
I'll just leave it there. You get the picture. And now this pretend person who they already were told ran somebody over in their country, be it true or not, they don't have reciprocity in Maine. They don't look to check those things. And that's a Class C driver's license. I'm not sure what a Class C driver's license is. Is that a regular one or a truck driving license? I don't know. But do you really want this person on the road in our country if it was a real person? No. Now, I ask you this. Would you consider these two examples to be examples of foreign influence in our country on any level? Do you consider people from other countries who may or may not have bad driving records there coming to our country, being handed licenses, able to drive around our country and kill people, even with trucks now we're finding out, semi-trucks, and then be offered line to how to vote as well in Maine? Do you consider that to be, foreign influence at all on any level? Because I sure as hell do. And these are just a few examples of it. We'll cover a few more later in the show. And what about this? I mean, I asked Grok to just compile me a little list here. I'm just going to scroll up to the beginning here. Show me the countries in order from highest to lowest whose lobbyists spend the most money paying Congress, basically, lobbying for their countries. Here they are, right here. Saudi Arabia comes in at number one with $56,930,546. This is money spent on our congressmen to lobby for their own countries. China comes in at number two, $54,113,387. Japan, 53. Turkey, we go all the way down here to the lowest being Canada at $19,197,360. Okay, do you consider that to be foreign influence? I sure do. Now, I know some of you are going to ask, where's Israel? What about AIPAC? Well, there's the kicker on that one, okay? AIPAC is local to the USA. It isn't considered a foreign lobby despite lobbying for a foreign country and its interests. Now, I'm going to point out that would be like them breaking into my house and getting a lease free and clear. Oh, yeah. And there's foreigners doing that, actually. That's why that home title lock thing, you always see these influencers advertising on it, because that's a thing it's not just the foreigners. There's Americans doing that to you as well. But so despite, this being a foreign lobby, they're not considered a foreign lobby. They're not lobbying for American interests. They're lobbying for Israel's interests. John F. Kennedy was one of the presidents who wanted to end that and reclassify them. And look what happened to him. I'm just saying. But that's a whole nother show. So just to catch you up, Joanna, we just covered what we're talking about is foreign influence in our country, the different levels of it, where it's at. The Minnesota thing with the Somalis is not the end of the Somali story. There are a ton of these people in Maine as well, getting driver's licenses and committing fraud and stealing tax dollars there as well. I'm bringing all this up just to recap to show people that we have had a problem with foreign influence in this country for a long time, and why that's about to change, something that flew below my radar. But moving on, okay, so AIPAC is not considered foreign, but this is what they spend to lobby for Israel in our country. Direct lobbying, $3.5 million. Core advocacy efforts, including conferences and trips for members of Congress to travel to Israel, $3.5 million. AIPAC PAC contributions, direct donations to federal candidates, $44.8 billion to $57.4 million, or million, not billion, sorry. pro-Israel candidate with 37% Democrats and 63% to Republicans. So Republicans take that money at a higher rate. UDP Super PAC spending $55.4 million. Independent expenditures like TV ads and mailers focused on primaries, $20 million to unseat reps Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, which I'm fine with that. I don't like them either, but I don't really not like them because of their stance on Israel. Total electoral spending, PAC and UDP, $95 to $127, and that's just APAC was the largest PAC contributor to congressional candidates, or $27 million, I said dollars. But you can see, between them and them, we've got a lot of foreign influence in our Congress, right? And that's important to note. Ted Cruz, by the way, is one of the top recipients of AIPAC, just so you know. And I bring up foreign influence for a very specific reason, so let's dive in. Recently, Trump spoke of something that the deep state and other shady actors are, for sure, freaking out about. And Hegseth, well, he confirmed it, so let's take a look at what I missed and what is being talked about, sort of, but not like it should be at all. This is the reason I do believe that we're seeing the freakouts that we're seeing. So here, let me bring this up really quick. This happened, where is this from? December 5th, right? This is from Geiger Capital. Wow. Trump's national security strategy was just released. It officially establishes the Western Hemisphere as America's #1 foreign policy priority. So shouldn't that be the way that it is? Shouldn't our hemisphere be our priority since that's where we reside? And everybody in our backyard that surrounds us, isn't that our interest to know or at least be involved in what they may or may not be doing? The U.S. will now reassert and enforce Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. And that is what we're talking about right there. The Trump corollary and the Monroe Doctrine. Now, I know many of you have probably heard of the Monroe Doctrine. You probably don't really know what it is. I did some digging on it. I found a simple way, we'll get to that in a minute, to kind of explain what it is. But I want to teach you about this because I had to figure it out too. I had heard of the Monroe Doctrine as well, but I was like, wait, what is that? I mean, I know it's important. I know we talked about it maybe in school, but I had to brush up. And it's important. So this is artist known as Jess on X. Trump announces Fortress America. This is the Monroe Doctrine on steroids. America will only concern itself with our hemisphere from here on out. Let's listen to what he has to say here.
So last week, Trump rolled out the most America First shit he has done to date, and somehow the media just didn't even bother to fucking tell us about it. The new doctrine for global strategy of America. We are no longer the world's police. Basically, Trump has announced that this is Fortress America. America is going to pull back and control only our hemisphere, everything in our hemisphere. This is the Monroe Doctrine on steroids. We will no longer be going out to police the world, and the shit he said is even wilder than that. In this doctrine, it says that all of Europe, it's done. It's done. They are no longer relevant in the world power space. There are only 3 powers in this world now: America, Russia, and China. That's it. It says Europe, completely irrelevant. They have completely collapsed. They are no longer anything to be considered. They have lost all sway in this world. He says in 20 years, Europe will be no more. And we all know why. Mass immigration. Their society has absolutely collapsed. They are going to all go pretty much to third world countries. Bye-bye, Europe. But what this means is that no longer will we be offshoring all our manufacturing. This is going to bring it all back. This is going to be the biggest push for America first in manufacturing, engineering. And I mean, this also signals that to China, like Taiwan, we ain't defending it. The UN, NATO is fucking dead. Dead, gone, no more fucking NATO. Fuck you, NATO, won't miss you. Bombing Yemen, not doing it anymore. No more world policing. And the media just fucking magically forgot to fucking tell us anything about this. But there are other impacts here. And I don't know how this is not in the fucking news. Russia has just parked 2 of their top tier nuclear submarines off the coast of Venezuela. Why? Because Venezuela, their entire infrastructure has basically been built by China. And Trump being the negotiator that he is, like, I've seen nothing of this, but I get the feeling that Trump is going to tell China, we're going to take Venezuela and you can have Taiwan. That's what this would tell me, because he's straight out saying, we're not policing the world anymore. We don't give a fuck.
Now, this is speculation on his behalf. I'm going to point that out. Even he said that. So take this part with a grain of salt. The reason I'm playing this is because this is the video that brought this to my attention. Okay. So just keep in mind that the last little bit that he said was speculation. But remember, the Monroe Doctrine, the Trump Corollary, it all will tie in, and this will all make sense to you soon enough, I promise. And I'm going to show you what he's talking about right after this video's over.
About what happens in Europe and Asia and all that stuff. We are going to focus here in our hemisphere, and we're going to lock it down. Second, we're going to have to deal with fucking Canada and those communist motherfuckers, though, probably, huh? This is going to be a wild week. The neocons are going to shit their pants. The military-industrial complex, holy fuck, this is the biggest thing, because if you're not whipping out fucking weapons and blowing up every third world country around the world, like, where's all their money going to come from? No more of that shit. America first. This is what we needed from Trump. I fucking love it. I fucking love it. And like the silence out of the media and the neocons, like they can't.
Well, there's not silence. We don't got to finish it all the way. But there's not silence per se out of the media and neocons. There are psyops out of the media and neocons. Hence Pete's Signalgate being brought back alive, like Frankenstein, brought back to life to distract us and to try to make everybody worried and to try to kind of intimidate Pete. It's not working, by the way. He said we're going to keep bombing these ships. We're going to keep bombing these speedboats that they're trying to speed run drugs into the country on. It's going to keep happening. And here's an example of one we just did. This just happened the other day. We'll get into that, though. So this is what he's referring to. I showed you the screenshots a minute ago. Let me take him down and put this up for you. Okay, where did it go? What am I doing? Oh, there we go. There it is. Okay, so I got to fix this a little bit. Let's bring this over. It's going to cover chat for a second. I thought I took him down, but apparently I'm just not with it right now. Okay, so this is what you saw the screenshots of, okay? This is the National Security Strategy of the United States, November 2025, okay? So I'll read you the preface. We're not going to get into the law part of this and all that, but I am going to do a quick search to show you what we're talking about. Over the past 9 months, we have brought our nation and the world back from the brink of catastrophe and disaster. After 4 years of weakness, extremism, and deadly failures, my administration has moved with urgency and historic speed to restore American strength at home and abroad and bring peace and stability to our world. No administration in history has achieved so dramatic a turnaround in so short a time. Starting on my first day in office, we restored the sovereign borders of the United States and deployed the U.S. military to stop the invasion of our country. We got radical gender ideology and woke lunacy out of our armed forces and began strengthening our military with $1 trillion of investment. Now, that's important to get the gender crap out of the military, because if you know, the gender crap, it ties into communism and socialism and all that nonsense. And it's meant to keep people confused about who they are so they can control their lives easier. It's just, read the book. Read the manifesto, you'll understand. We rebuilt our alliances and got our allies to contribute more to our common defense, including a historic commitment from NATO countries, and raised defense spending from 2% to 5% of GDP. We unleashed American energy production to reclaim our independence and imposed historic tariffs to bring critical industries back home, which we found out during COVID we needed to do. In Operation Midnight Hammer, we obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity. I declared the drug cartels a savage foreign gangs operating in our region as foreign terrorist organizations. And over the course of just 8 months, we settled 8 raging conflicts. This is important, including between Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the DRC and Rwanda, which just piped up again a little bit. We'll see what happens. Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and ending the war in Gaza with all living hostages returned to their families. America is strong and respected again, and because of that, we are making peace over the world. And everything we do, we are putting America first. What follows is a national security strategy described and build upon the extraordinary strides we have made. This document is a roadmap to ensure that America remains the greatest and most successful nation in human history and the home of freedom on earth. In the years ahead, we will continue to develop every dimension of our national strength, and we will make America safer, richer, freer, greater, and more powerful than ever before, as it should be. Now, you remember, I mentioned the Monroe Doctrine, and I mentioned the Trump Corollary. Now watch this. Let's do this. Let's just type in Monroe Doctrine, just so I can show you this. Look, right here. A. We're on the regions. A. Western Hemisphere, the Trump Corollary, and the Monroe Doctrine. After years of neglect, the United States will reassert and enforce the Monroe Doctrine to restore American preeminence in the Western Hemisphere and to protect our homeland and our access to key geographies throughout the region. We will deny non-hemispheric competitors the ability to position forces or other threatening capabilities or to own or control strategically vital assets in our hemisphere. This Trump Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine is a common sense and potent restoration of America's power and priorities consistent with American security interests. All right? So there it is. That's where it's brought up. Okay? Back here, this is section 2. What do we want in and from the world? Right here. We want to ensure that Western Hemisphere remains reasonably stable and well-governed enough to prevent and discourage mass migration to the United States. We want a hemisphere whose governments cooperate with us against narco-terrorist cartels and other transnational criminal organizations. We want a hemisphere that remains free of hostile foreign incursion or ownership of key assets and that supports critical supply chains. And we want to ensure our continued access to key strategic locations. In other words, we will assert and enforce a Trump Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. Remember that. Now, I'll put the link for this up in comments once this video is done being live, and you can all read this for yourself if you're interested. If not, it'll still be there, whatever. You can share with other people. Now, listen to this. I just wanted to show you this. Now, that's important, too. I do want to point that out. I think I get to this later, but, whoops. The thing is that you know, China, as you know now, China was starting to take over the Panama Canal, if you recall. And that was a big deal at the end. You know, that was around the time we renamed it to Gulf of America and all that good stuff. So that was a big deal. There was a lot of belly aching. Oh, he can't do this. Oh, we sold it for $1, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's move on, and I want to show you this. President Trump's actions towards Venezuela are the first instance of the Trump Corollary. See, this is all over X. You just got to know where to look. That guy brought my attention to it. To the Monroe Doctrine from the 2025 National Security Strategy, prosperity and security for our friends, pain for our enemies. Now listen to this.
Oh, they're not capable of it. Fortunately, President Trump is, and he just released the new National Security Strategy for 2025. And for the Western Hemisphere, he's added the Trump Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, which says our enemies will suffer and our friends will prosper. So Venezuela is really the first instance where this doctrine and corollary are being put into play. The full might and power of all parts of American strength are being shown to these guys, and Maduro's been told, pack your bags and get out, or you will suffer the consequences. And I think he's going to leave. I think that's being negotiated. And this is going to be a victory for the Trump administration, showing that the Western Hemisphere is no place for other bad actors to think they can play.
Yeah, I mean, Venezuela, communist Venezuela has been abusing America for years. You know, let's talk about the U.S. taking out a 22nd Venezuelan drug boat in the Eastern Pacific. Mm-hmm. You know, Democrats and media, they've been slamming Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth over this, not talking about how Barack Obama approved 542 drone strikes that killed anywhere from 381 to 816 innocent civilians. The Biden administration mistakenly drove 10 Afghanistan civilians, including 7 children. So where's the discussion about that?
Well, let's have it right now. I think the thing we need to basically focus on is the commander-in-chief has the right to protect the United States using all facts.
Exactly. So they don't care that we kill Americans overseas, that Obama drone bombed Americans overseas, killed children, killed innocent bystanders, and so on overseas. But when we get into protecting our own hemisphere and trying to secure our own hemisphere, the things that directly affect us, that have more to do with us than anything in the Middle East ever will, now all of a sudden they've all got problems, right? Yeah. Exactly. Listen to this.
Facets of military strength or other power. So the right of the president to designate the Secretary of War to blow up drug boats is not really in question by people who understand how the Constitution works.
Told you.
The question now becomes, is that good policy? And as part of the previously mentioned Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, this is the iron fist inside the velvet glove. There's a lot of diplomacy going on with Secretary of State Rubio behind the scenes, and deals are going to be made. But that threat and that 90,000 tons of carrier diplomacy is how you get things done.
Boom. There you have it. Now watch this. This is all built. I'm going to show you exactly what we're talking about here in a second. This is J.D. Vance on it. This is coming from Charlie's Voice Rising. Take a look at this. Take a look at this.
Say this, when I was in the Senate, what made the president's first term foreign policy was so successful, and I think the second term too, it's not just the strength part, it's the wisdom part. Because there are so many people, for example, people say, how could he have gone and visited Kim Jong-un in North Korea? Doesn't he know that person's evil? And the president of the United States says, whatever you think about the person, why not sit down and have a conversation and try to understand if there are ways to advance America's interests? I've heard so many people criticize the president of the United States for talking to Vladimir Putin. You don't have to agree with Vladimir Putin's decision to invade Ukraine, but if you want to bring about peace, you've got to be strong. You've also got to talk to people. You've got to engage in that aggressive, engaged diplomacy. And I think the President of the United States, his doctrine is to have the strongest military in the world, to focus on peace, but not to allow the D.C. press corps to tell you who you're allowed to talk to and how you're allowed to engage in diplomacy. That rejection of that conventional wisdom, that's a critical part of the Trump doctrine, and why I think, foreign policy-wise, I don't think there's been a president in a generation who's even come close. I was born in the era of Reagan. I was 4 years old when Reagan left office. I've never seen a president who's accomplished so much, who's achieved so much peace, who's been able to advance America's economic interests through his foreign policy. People talk about foreign policy, and of course, foreign means not in the United States. But how do you think that we're able to get these trade deals? How do you think that we're able to bring in hundreds of billions of dollars through tariffs? How do you think we're able to bring in $18 trillion in new investments? There's a foreign policy element to that. And I really think it's a very unique perspective. But I actually think, even though the Democrats won't ever admit it, that administrations for the next 40 or 50 years are going to be guided by the Trump doctrine in the same way people were guided by the Monroe Doctrine 200 years ago.
I think
He brought it up again, the Monroe Doctrine. And here's Pete Hegseth on it. Take a look at this, and then we'll dig into the history of what the main topic of tonight is. Listen to what he has to say.
We will also deny adversaries' ability to position forces or other threatening capabilities in our hemisphere. Past administrations perpetuated the belief that the Monroe Doctrine had expired. They were wrong. The Monroe Doctrine is in effect, and it is stronger than ever under the Trump corollary. A common sense restoration of our power and prerogatives in this hemisphere, consistent with U.S. interests. We will also
Did you hear that? Guys, it's happening, y'all. I know it's hard to understand, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at exactly, this is an AI video, but you'll get the gist. Let's take a look at exactly what they're talking about with the Monroe Doctrine. And you heard Pete Hegseth. People thought that the Monroe Doctrine was done and over with, but it's not. It's always been active. They never reversed anything to do with this Monroe Doctrine. Other presidents just refused to enforce it. That's how we got where we are today. Just listen to this video and everything will start to make more sense as to why this is a big deal. Look at this.
In the 1820s, European empires were still expanding. They were eager to reclaim colonies and to assert their dominance over the Americas. At this time, a young United States decided to take an aggressive stance with a message to the world: hands off the Western Hemisphere. This was the Monroe Doctrine, a groundbreaking declaration that not only shaped U.S. foreign policy, but also redefined America's role in the world. The Monroe Doctrine was a foreign policy statement delivered by President James Monroe on December 2, 1823. In his annual address to Congress, Monroe declared that the Americas were off limits to new European colonization and interference. It was a bold move, essentially warning Europe that the Western Hemisphere was under U.S. protection, and any attempts to recolonize or interfere would be seen as a threat to American security.
Now, keep this in mind. Any attempt to colonize or interfere, what are we seeing? We've already covered some of this tonight. We're seeing China taking over the Panama Canal. They were buying up ports and access points. We're seeing China and Russia showing up in certain countries in South America, and those countries willingly allowing their military to move in. We're seeing drugs come over from China and other countries and then shipped through these countries into our country to kill Americans. This is all relevant to why Trump is pushing the Monroe Doctrine right now. It asserts authority over our neighbors who directly affect this superpower, okay? And this is really important.
But what led to this strong stance? There were several key events that inspired the Monroe Doctrine. First, many Latin American nations were gaining independence from Spain and Portugal during the early 19th century. The U.S., as a young nation itself, sympathized with these new republics and wanted to protect them from European recolonization. Second, the European powers, led by the Holy Alliance of Russia, Prussia, and Austria, were working to restore monarchies and prevent the spread of revolutionary ideals. There were concerns that these powers might intervene in Latin America to help Spain regain control of its lost colonies. There was also fear of Russian expansion along the Pacific coast of North America. Russia had already begun establishing outposts in Alaska and was moving southward, raising alarms in the U.S. What were the key points of the Monroe Doctrine? First, the Americas were closed to any new European colonization. Secondly, European nations were warned not to interfere in the internal affairs of countries in the Western Hemisphere. Thirdly, in exchange, the U.S.
Now keep in mind, those European nations, they're not even a threat anymore. They've allowed themselves to pretty much become third world countries, like Dude said in the other video. But there's other countries that are now an issue. You heard Russia mentioned off the coast of Alaska and stuff. How many times have we heard they flew jets over there and stuff? Because this doctrine has been ignored by past leaders for so long that all these other countries are like, we can do whatever the hell we want now. Trump's saying, foot down, we're done. And I'm adding to what you're about to hear about at the end of this video. 1 second.
Promised it would not interfere in European affairs or in existing European colonies. Why was the Monroe Doctrine important? It laid the foundation for U.S. influence in the Western Hemisphere and promoted U.S. expansion. Also, it is important to note that over the years, the Monroe Doctrine would evolve. It would evolve to fit the needs of the U.S. and the changing geopolitical environment. While initially aimed at preventing European interference in Latin America, it would...
But instead of evolving, it was abandoned. It only evolved one time, which you're about to hear about.
Would also be used to provide justification for U.S. territorial ambitions. Between 1840 and 1860, the Monroe Doctrine would influence Western expansion. It did so by reinforcing the idea that the Western Hemisphere was under American influence and control. With the support of the belief in manifest destiny, the U.S. would quickly expand and swallow up large areas in the West. The Monroe Doctrine would evolve again in 1904. At first, the doctrine was more of a defensive statement, but in 1904, President Theodore Roosevelt added the Roosevelt Corollary, which...
Did you hear that? The Roosevelt Corollary. Trump Corollary. Isn't it amazing having a president who actually studies war history and American history and economic and all of these things. He's been known to have done this for a very long time, okay? And now he's using it. He's using what's already existed but been ignored for years in administration after administration to help get America back on track. This is a big deal that nobody's talking about. They're just smearing the people that are promoting it.
Which gave the doctrine teeth. The Corollary asserted the U.S. had the right to intervene in Latin American countries to stabilize them. This justified numerous U.S. interventions in Latin American affairs and cemented U.S. dominance and aggression in the region. During the Cold War, the doctrine would be revived to combat the Soviet influence in the region, leading to U.S. involvement in various Latin American countries' affairs and even coups. And nowadays, while less interventionist, the Monroe Doctrine's core principle of U.S.'s influence survives. But it is now more focused on economic ties, the promotion of democracy, and security concerns.
And there you have it. So that's why that's important. That right there is why this is a big deal, because this matters. So part of this whole thing being able to properly function is by ending wars around the world that we will or are either directly or indirectly involved in. So we're like, how do we get involved in these things, right? We get involved because some war breaks out. We have to intervene by taking in refugees caused by the wars, right? That's a thing. It's a war torn. These poor people, they got to come here and steal from us. Money gets sent to both sides of the war in a lot of cases. War stock payouts for the criminals in Congress. They get all this money from the stocks they've invested in the war complex, and actual involvement with troops on the ground in some of these cases. So if we can end this nonsense, which you've seen Trump doing, we can begin removing all of these silly military bases all over the world. Of course, we'll probably, because as it said, we were expanding power, but this is the key. We may keep some of these bases for just monitoring to make sure that things stay stable, right? And there's nothing wrong with that in my view. Now, when we have bases set up everywhere because we're constantly at war, that's a different thing to me, a whole different thing. So we were never meant to have these bases in almost every single country. I suspect that's going to end, which means more money for us here back at home because we're not supporting people being on these bases, maintenance and upkeep, food, shipments going to these bases. You know what I'm talking about, equipment, blah, 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 blah. We were supposed to have our military largely here, waiting to be called if needed due to an attack on us. Instead, we send them all over the planet to help other countries with their wars, right? And aid and humanitarian this and humanitarian that, because there's always wars. So no wars, no need for this. This is the reason why I think the end of the Ukraine-Russia war is presenting a challenge. I think that's very, very intentional. Congress's little puppet Zelensky seems like every time we turn around, he always finds a reason to disagree with this or that. Putin, who would love to see America fail so Russia can become the next superpower, always seems to find a reason to disagree. They don't want America to go back to being a constitutional republic. They don't want America to be stronger. I think a lot of people in Congress also don't want this as well. I'm just going to say it. On both sides of the aisle, by the way. The other part is establishing dominance again in our own hemisphere, letting other countries know that they won't be expanding their reach into other countries in our backyard anymore. That's done. We're done. It's that simple. Ask yourself why the alleged patriot Congress people like Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, why they're all speaking out against America asserting its dominance legally in our own hemisphere. MTG was complaining that we were focused on ending wars rather than worrying about things back here at home. Yet, ending these wars, as you know now, will help us greatly back at home. None of these people can be trusted. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who claimed to be pro-Trump, she's tapping out now that just at a crucial time where Trump is like making moves to restore our supremacy and influence over our Congress and in our backyard by foreign actors and so on. Ask yourself why that might be. Ask yourself why that might be, because part of ending foreign influence is going to end the intake of money from foreign lobbies. Okay? That's going to happen. Now, these people keep saying, we want to pass a law to stop this foreign lobby thing. We know if Congress passes the bill, it's going to be useless. It's going to have other things added into it that just hurt us. just to get that one thing, and it will probably be way weaker than what this will do. And remember on yesterday's show, I mentioned an ex-spy chief from Venezuela penning a letter to Trump. Take a look at this. Now, I'm sharing this because he breaks the whole story down like quickly. He's good at that. However, in my opinion, this guy showed his true colors to me when he joined the collective of influencers to cry about Trump, how Trump handled the Epstein docs. Something I explained and showed you was handled intentionally the way that it was, and it was executed perfectly to get Dems to hang themselves with it. So that being said, I'm showing you this because of the way he breaks this down so well and quickly. I just got to get the dang window back open. Here we go. Let me bring this up for you to watch. It's not super long, but I know I told you guys, I showed you the link to where you could, find that on YouTube or on X yesterday. That was a 50-minute long video yesterday that I showed you. But we have, why is it not showing up? Why is it not showing up? Why is my YouTube not showing up on here? National security strategy. Anyway, I figured a lot of you are busy too. There it is. Now it popped up. I figured a lot of you are too busy to watch that video in particular. So we're going to break. This one's only 13 minutes, 45 seconds long. I want you to hear this letter that was sent to Trump from somebody, a foreign official in Venezuela, because this is important. Listen to what's said.
Chavez ordered the recruitment of criminal leaders inside and outside prisons to defend the resolution in exchange for impunity. We'll let you out. You got to go attack America. They bragged about having sent thousands of spies over decades. Some of them are now career politicians. Who are they? Can you please identify those people for us? We would like to know. Who are they?
It's really one of the things I liked about Donald Trump was that he was against the Iraq war. He was against the war in Libya. He was against the war because often regime change leads to chaos.
An ex-spy chief sending a letter warning President Trump about what is happening on the international stage. And Carrie Lake is flagging this one for us, saying, here's a letter written to President Trump from a man formerly inside the Maduro regime and the cartel. She says this is a stark warning. Writing, Dear Mr. President, we're going to read through it, but someone else is also weighing in on this, and her name is Sidney Powell. We remember her from the rigged 2020 election. She was fighting for the president, got prosecuted by Fani Willis. She said, yes, this election fraud. It's all connected to everything wrong here. So pay close attention to this. And the letter was originally brought to our attention courtesy of the Dallas Express. They said, we got an exclusive here. Former Maduro spy chief sent a letter to Trump. This guy right here is in federal prison right now. His name is Hugo Carvajal Barrios. Used to work with Maduro. We're talking about invading Venezuela or bombing them or whatever's happening soon. Saying the Dallas Express got our hands on an explosive letter addressed to President Trump from Hugo, the former director of military intelligence for Venezuela. Kind of sounds like the director of the CIA and one of the most powerful figures inside the government of Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. The letter shared exclusively with us by his lawyer called Robert, a former senior Justice Department prosecutor. Okay, so not just some random attorney. Former senior Justice Department prosecutor is now representing him. He releases the letter. Marks the first time the retired Major General has put these warnings on the record since he pled guilty earlier this year. He was extradited from Spain after a lengthy international manhunt, so like they wanted this guy bad. Says he is writing to atone and to alert Americans to what he describes as a coordinated, state-directed campaign targeting the United States. They give us a brief. We're going to read the letter, but this came from the inner circle of Venezuela. Carvajal, widely known by his nickname called El Pollo, spent years inside the top tiers of Venezuela's security apparatus and dealt directly with senior leadership of Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. Now, earlier this year, he pleaded guilty in federal court to charges stemming from a conspiracy that moved cocaine into the United States and provided support to Colombia's guerrillas. Prosecutors say at the center of the so-called Cartel de los Soles, a network of Venezuelan military officials accused of weaponizing their efforts against America. Now, Rubio was on with Hannity yesterday. He issued one of the strongest statements yet. The Maduro regime is not a legitimate government, he said. What is a transshipment organization that allows cocaine to travel into the United States. So we got a letter now, and we'll read this with a skeptical eye. Of course, we've got endorsements in the letter, courtesy of Carrie Lake and Sidney Powell, who say, we have heard and seen a lot of this for a long time. And Carrie Lake, of course, is in Arizona, where a lot of this stuff is allegedly occurring. So the letter comes down, and of course, we're right in the middle of a military operation. Okay, we have a whole bunch of people who want a full-blown strike on Venezuela. And when we read letters like this, we say, oh,
Yeah, and I'll be one of them. Now, this guy, he seems to be against it because he thinks it's going to be another forever war. It's not. There's not even a government there to really take down, as you just heard. He's not listening to the own thing, the things that he's saying, and then he's saying, "Oh, I'm anti-war." I'm anti-war too, all over the world. In our own hemisphere, we need to take care of things.
Is this trying to nudge us towards one direction or another? Support land attacks, support a ground invasion, support strikes on, targets that are inside Venezuela, not just the boats that are leaving Venezuela. Is it trying to nudge us that way, or is this the truth? Is this an op, or is this the truth? So here is what this person says: "Dear Mr. President and the people of the United States," that's us, "my name is Hugo Barrios. Now, for many years, I was a high-ranking member of the Venezuelan regime. I was a 3-star general trusted by both Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, and I served as the director of military intelligence and a deputy in the National Assembly. Now, today, I sit in an American prison because I voluntarily pled guilty to crimes charged against me, a narco-terrorism conspiracy, and I write to atone by telling the full truth so that the United States can protect itself from the dangers that I witnessed for so many years. I publicly broke with the Maduro regime in 2017 and fled my country, knowing that I faced criminal charges in the U.S. In doing so, I became their enemy. Knowing the risks, I acted with the strongest conviction to dismantle Maduro's criminal regime and bring freedom to my country." And he may also be, kind of begging for a pardon right now. "Today, I see the need to address the American people about the reality of what the Venezuelan regime truly is and why President Trump's policies are not only correct, but absolutely necessary to the United States national security." He writes, "I personally witnessed how Hugo Chavez's government became a criminal organization that is now run by Nicolas Maduro and this other guy called Diosdado Cabello and other senior regime officials. The purpose of this organization, now known as the Cartel of the Suns, is to weaponize drugs against the United States." Yeah, that's why we're happy they're getting blown out of the water. "The drugs that reached your cities through new routes were not accidents of corruption or just the work of independent traffickers. They were deliberate policies coordinated by the Venezuelan regime against the United States. We know. Now, this plan was suggested by the Cuban regime to Chavez in the mid-2000s and has been successfully executed with the help from FARC, ELN, Cuban operatives, and Hezbollah. The regime has provided weapons, passports, and impunity for these terrorist organizations to operate freely from Venezuela against the United States. And it's resulting in hundreds of thousands, millions over years of people dead. Since 2000, millions dead from drugs. Tren de Aragua, they say, "Now, I was present at the meetings when decisions were made to organize and weaponize criminal gangs across Venezuela to protect the regime. Among them, the group known as Tren de Aragua. Chavez ordered the recruitment of criminal leaders inside and outside prisons to defend the resolution in exchange for impunity. We'll let you out. You got to go attack America." Now, after Chavez died, Maduro expanded this strategy by exporting criminality and chaos abroad to target Venezuelan political exiles and artificially reduce crime statistics in Venezuela. Remember, Trump said they're releasing them out of their prisons.
So this letter that I mentioned last night on my show, this letter, turns out, is proving Trump to be correct again. It's almost like Trump knows what's going on in the country, and they wish he didn't.
Gang leaders were instructed to send thousands of members out of the country. This was coordinated through the Minister of the Interior, the Ministry of Prisons, the National Guard, and National Police Forces. In fact, Tren de Aragua became the most effective and fastest growing. It's like government-endorsed cartels. And they give them, that veil of legitimacy. They say, "Oh, you're cartel leaders." Well, yeah, no, we vetted you. Here's a passport. Go to America. When the Biden-Harris open border policy became widely known, they seized the opportunity to send these operatives into the U.S. They now have obedient, armed personnel on American soil, probably tens of thousands. To finance their operations, they
Think back to before even the election happened, before Trump even took office. Think back to what we were seeing. While the media was telling us it wasn't happening, we were getting real-time video on the ground from people that lived there of these gangs taking over apartment complexes, so much so that the media then had to admit it was happening and televise it and talk about it. But, of course, they put their spins on it. "Oh, but this is just in this town in Colorado. Oh, it's just this little hotel in Texas." I mean, it's not like a widespread issue. No, but that's how it starts, correct? It doesn't start out where they just all of a sudden show up in every city and just take things over all at once. They do it slowly and methodically because they're here to invade. They don't just show up like that in a country this big. where they know they're outnumbered to start with.
They were explicitly instructed to continue kidnapping, extorting, and killing. Every crime they commit on your soil is an act ordered by the regime. So, in other words, we've already been invaded. They're already killing us. We're already at war. I was present when Russian intelligence came to Caracas to...
See there? He said it himself. We're already at war. And I don't think that this letter is an op whatsoever. I think Trump has known all the things being said in this letter for a while, for a long time. Okay, I think he's known about this. And I think that's why you're seeing the decisions that he's making happen. And this guy, of course, has to be like, oh, he's trying to talk him into war. We're already at war. How do you not know this? How do you not see this? How do you not understand this? When you have gang members taking over apartment complexes in Chicago, and then they come in and raid them, and the people are in the media and on the ground, oh, the poor people were drug out in their pajamas. Some kids were naked. Tell me why these kids were naked in the middle of fall in cold-ass Chicago in an apartment building. That ain't normal. Why were there multiple naked kids, according to these people, getting taken out of a building where there's a child trafficking gang?
Proposed to Hugo Chavez the tapping of submarine internet cables that connect most of South America and the Caribbean islands with the United States for the purpose of penetrating U.S. government comms. So the Russians go over there. They say, hey, let us, tap into your little cables over here, but we won't use it against you. We'll use it against the Americans. In 2015, this guy warned Maduro, if you allow Russian intelligence to build and run a secret listening post on our island, that's going to invite American bombs. Don't let the Russians build on this island. There's going to be trouble. He ignored me, and they're there. For 20 years, the Venezuelan regime sent spies into your country, America. Many are still there, some disguised as members of the Venezuelan opposition. Cuban intelligence showed me their networks inside your naval bases on the East Coast. They bragged about having sent thousands of spies over decades. Some of them are now career politicians.
Did you hear that? Who's attacking largely Trump with their seditious video? Who's attacking Trump and Hegseth for carrying out our interests in our hemisphere? Did you hear that? And this is all because of the Monroe Doctrine being ignored by so many administrations. When it never went away, it was just ignored.
Who are they? Can you please identify those people for us? We would like to know. Who are they? U.S. diplomats and CIA officers were paid to assist Chavez and Maduro in remaining in power. These Americans acted as spies for Cuba and Venezuela, and some are still active to this day. Now, what about our elections? Smartmatic, remember them? They say that they were born...
This is what I've been telling you guys about. This all ties back to 2020, the election then. A lot of people were telling us this, and all those people were taken off social media, silenced, sued, prosecuted, you name it. And now the truth is coming out, guys. Like, this is a good time to be alive. The fact that people are tapping out of politics right now blows my mind.
Born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime, but soon derived into a tool to help the regime stay in power forever. I know this because I placed the head of IT of the National Electoral Council in his position, and he reported directly to me. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. This technology was later exported abroad, including to the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationships with election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. I do not claim that every election is stolen, but I state with certainty that elections can be rigged with software and has been used to do so. Now, people of the United States, that's us, make no mistake about the threat posed by allowing narco-terrorist organizations to roam freely in the Caribbean and throughout Latin America, doing everything possible to harm the American people, to finance anti-Americanism across the continent, and to facilitate the operations of other terrorist organizations and enemies of the United States within Venezuela and now within your borders. Now, the regime I serve is not merely hostile, okay? It is at war with you, using drugs, gang, espionage, even your own democratic processes as weapons. President Trump's policies against Maduro and the criminal regime are not just justified, but they're necessary and they're proportionate to the threat. He may even be underestimating what the regime is prepared to do to hold on to power. Can they activate these folks inside of our country? They have contingency plans for every extreme scenario to ensure they never relinquish control. He writes, now I absolutely do support President Trump's policy towards Venezuela because it is in self-defense and he is acting based on the truth. I remain ready to provide additional details about these matters to the United States government.
There, he broke that down pretty fast. We don't got to listen to him expand on things and talk about how, oh, is this a psyop, blah, blah, blah. It's not a psyop. We all know that this stuff is true already. So, I mean, Trump has alluded to the fact that this is true, right? He said not too long ago, he said, the drug boats and the drugs and stuff, that's not the only reason that we're going after Venezuela. He literally just said this not even over a month ago. So now look at Minnesota and the damage the so-called refugees are causing there, billions in fraud, and many of the people being arrested for it are good friends with Ilhan Omar. So this is where you ask yourself, should we really have foreign people in our government, people who have literally made it clear that their loyalties lie in their shithole home countries, not here in America? Don't believe me? Let's refresh your memory on some things here. Look at this.
caawa aan fursad u helay madaxweynaheena madaxweynaha Soomaaliya madaxweyne Xasan Sheekh Maxamuud inaan maanta ku soo dhaweyno Minneapolis aniga iyo madaxweynaha special relationship aan qabnaa aniga adeeraan ugu waxa asigana gabarteeyo idhahaa madaxweyne sidii qof kasta uu yiri mininkaaga waaye ku soo dhawow Minneapolis aad iyo aad aan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta madaxweynaheena aad tahay.
We are very happy that Hassan is our president, she says, inside Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he's not her president. And let me show you this. This is a member of Congress, by the way.
Annaga haddii aan nahay dad Soomaali ah waxaan nahay dad isjecel waa laga yaabaa meelaha qaarkood inaan isku xagxaganno laakiin haddii runtii ay imaato waxaan nahay dad isku tashto dad walaalo ah dad dhiig lah dad isku og inay Soomaali yihiin inay Muslim yihiin oo iyagana isku hiiliya dadka walaalahoodna u hiiliya marka daraad markii ayaan dhaxdaas markii aan maqalnay in qaar Soomaali ah ama Soomaali sheegato in Ethiopia ay la galeen ma baqaan af Soomaali wixii lagu dhaho agreement heshiis Maxamuud Nuur hadda aniga Soomaaliga badiiso ma aha dad badan ay soo wacay oo waxay leeyihiin ilhaan dawladda Mareykanka inaan la hadashid waaye dawladda Mareykanka maxay ka qabanaysaa jawaabteeda waxay ahayd dawladda Mareykanka waxay ka qabanaysaa wixii annaga aan dhahno dawladda Mareykanka qabo waa kalsoonidaas inaan isku qabno annaga Soomaali haddii aan nahay wadankan annaga ku nool wadankii aan annaga tax ka dhiibno waaye waa wadankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee Congress-ka fadhiso intii aniga aan Congress joogo wadanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleeta iyo badeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleeta in annaga ayna dhaxaan marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota gabadhii Congress
Did you see that? Did you see what she said? This freaking terrorist said? Did you see the last sentence?
reer Minnesota gabadhii Congress u dirsateen way idinka war haysaa sidaad idinka u dareemay
She was sent to Congress to protect Somali interests, not Minnesotans' interests, not the interests of anyone but Somalis. This was not supposed to happen in this country, by the way. This is the real reason they're nervous about Trump resurrecting the Monroe Doctrine. Remember, it was meant to keep foreign actors and foreign influencers out of our hemisphere. That was the point to the whole thing. And lastly, I will remind you that foreign influence has even reached into our elections, which is why you keep hearing about Smartmatic, which is what I just showed you. Here's an old video for a refresher. This is one of the things that Sidney Powell was prosecuted over. You need to have a little memory refresher on this video here.
I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it. Well, for fraud this serious, I think even if the states are stupid enough to go ahead and certify the votes where we know the machines were operating and producing altered election results, then they will be set aside by the fraud also. I mean, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. President Trump won this election in a landslide.
There you have it. So that's important to remember. And what did the deep state do to people like her, guys? Remember, and many others like her, for saying things like this. Venezuela is more than just about drugs, like Trump said. It's more than just about drugs. That's, just a bonus. President Trump just confirmed it. Venezuela isn't just about Maduro. It's about kicking Russia and China out of our hemisphere after leaders let them encroach on us for years because of the lack of the use of the Monroe Doctrine, and then the election systems, and then the people they're sending to our country, and the list goes on. So all these people pretending it's just about drugs are absolutely in denial or intentionally trying to downplay what's really going on right here. The cartels, they're just a bonus, just another way to hurt Maduro and those linked to him globally, China, you name it. Never forget what they did to us under whoever was running the last government before Trump into the ground over that 4 years. I mean, it was insane what we saw play out there. Listen to this before I let you go.
Mr. President, switching to Venezuela for a second, have you checked back with President Maduro? I mean, is your pressure campaign working? And do you think how's he responding to your demand that he leave the country?
It's not pressure campaign. It's much beyond that, I think. But I spoke to him briefly, just told him a couple of things. We'll see what happens with that. Venezuela sends us drugs, but Venezuela sends us people that they shouldn't be sending. They emptied their prisons into our country. They sent us killers, murderers. They sent us drug dealers at the highest level. They sent us gang members. They sent us people from their mental institutions. They emptied their mental institutions into our country. And so did other countries, because we had stupid people running this country, really stupid people. And I think probably you had some stupid ones and you had some smart ones, but there were bad people too. Because not all of them were stupid. You can't cheat on elections like they did and be stupid, okay?
And there you have it. He brought up the people that they're trafficking here or bringing into this country, and then he mentioned elections at the end, didn't he? All right, guys, I'll leave you with that. Thanks for joining me. To everyone who did, everybody who ends up watching this after the live, I appreciate you. Please click like once this goes live. I will talk to you all very soon. I just wanted to bring those things to your attention. I promised I'd leave this link in the comment section once it goes live or public, and I will do that. So thanks for joining me. Pay attention, cut through the noise and the distractions the best you can on your own, and I will be here to help you with that.